Today I'm going to show you how to make a large and small bead mission rosary. We have our supplies here for the rosary. We are using a number 7 bonded white nylon twine cord that can be found at rosarymakingparts.com. And with the number 7, we'll be using a total of 6 feet of cord. And once again, with these beads, what I do is I dip the ends in a clear nail polish and let them dry. And that makes them nice and hard so that they don't fray as you're working. If you don't do that and they fray, you can go ahead and trim them, but you'll see that becomes a little problematic sometimes. So I would recommend to go ahead and do that as well. So again, 6 feet of the number 7 bonded nylon twine. The supplies for this rosary, I am using the transparent beads, the 6x9 transparent plastic mission beads, as well as using the 4mm faceted spacer beads, these really small beads here. And you can see what that looks like here. There are different styles of spacer beads and other beads that you can use. Another recommendation is the 8mm, the faceted beads, the big 8mm beads. This is what they look like, so you can kind of get an idea of that. So that would be another option, and they have a variety of colors. In this particular model, I am not alternating the Our Father bead. Since we have the spacers, it stands out enough. You could use an alternate color for the Our Father bead, like a clear bead or something like that if you prefer. That is optional. So in order to begin with making this rosary, what you do is you take your cord and you tie a knot on one end of it, and this is strictly to prevent the beads from slipping through. And what you're going to do is you're going to begin, because as you can see here, this is the end of it. You're going to begin with the spacer beads and go all the way around. Okay, so for each section, there's a pattern on this that is 3 spacers, 10 Hail Marys, 3 spacers, the Our Father. So I'll show you how that pattern works. So we're going to start with 3 of these spacer beads. As you can see, that hole is pretty small. This is why I recommend using the number 7 and not the number 9. The number 9 will probably work, but it's a little bit thicker, might be difficult to work with. And so since we put on our 3 spacer beads, you can slide it all the way down to the end if you'd like. And then we're going to put on our 10 Hail Marys. When we put on our Hail Mary beads, what we want to do is count out 10 of them. And I would recommend using either like a placemat or a tablecloth or something so that they don't run away from you, because they will slip all over. And then when you put them on, I would recommend putting them on 2 at a time. And doing this prevents us from putting on the wrong amount. I have made many of these, and inevitably you will find one occasionally that has either 9 or 11 instead of 10. So you want to make sure not to make that mistake, because when you make it in the middle and you have to take it apart, you waste the rosary. It's very, very frustrating. So we don't want to go there. So always be extra careful. I counted out 10. I put them on 2 at a time. I'm going to slide them down, and I'm going to count them one more time before I move on. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I would recommend doing that every time you put on 10. So those are our Hail Mary beads. Next is the Our Father, but before we do that, we're going to space them out. So once again, 3 spacer beads. These spacer beads take a little bit of patience sometimes. They're really pretty small. And then we're going to put on 1 Our Father bead. I'll go ahead and alternate the color on this so you can see what that looks like. And then 3 more spacer beads. And then as you can imagine, after these, we will move into the next decade of 10. Now, one of the things that I want to mention is the reason that I've done these with spacer beads to make them longer. Let me show you what this looks like so far. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the 10 Hail Marys just so you can see what that alternate color looks like. The reason that we've done these longer is because when these rosaries are donated to missionaries that take them to other countries, I've noticed that people like to put them around their necks. I've seen rosaries that went to Kenya, and a lot of people, I saw photos, and a lot of people were wearing them. A lot of times it's because they have no place to put it, or they want it close to their body. Also, a lot of times when rosaries are donated to hospitals, a lot of the patients want the comfort of having it close to them. So the general rule within Catholicism about wearing rosaries, is that if you are wearing it because it reminds you to pray or it brings you closer to God, for spiritual reasons, it is fine. If you are wearing it as a piece of jewelry, it is not. So I got that from a priest on the Catholic channel on Sirius Radio, so I believe that to be true. So this is the pattern. You start with your 3 spacer beads, 10 Hail Marys, 3 spacer beads, an Our Father bead, 3 spacer beads, 10 Hail Marys, and then you continue all the way around. A rosary does have 5 decades of 10, and so there'll be 4 Our Father beads in between, and when you get to the end, this is what it is going to look like. Okay, so here we are, and we have, as you can see, where I started with the 3 spacer beads, 10 Hail Marys, 1 Our Father. This did not alternate colors on this one. And it goes all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades with 4 Our Father beads in between. When you get to this point, what you're going to do is slide your knot down a little bit from the other end to give you working room. You're going to put your 2 ends together and line them up. This is a great way to make sure that you also put in the right number of beads, because it's not likely that you made the same mistake on both sides. So if they're lining up, you can almost be guaranteed that there are 10 each. If you put your finger in the middle, you can see that there are 5 and 5 makes 10. So I'm in good shape here. And then at this point, you're going to go ahead and put 1 single knot here. You will tie these 2 ends together like you would the end of a balloon. Just go over, and then both of the strings go in. Pull them all the way through, and then this knot can be fairly close up. You don't want it to be too low because these beads will slide. It's okay to give it a little sliding room when they pray, but you don't want this knot to be too far down because then it'll get a little weird. Okay, now when we continue on the bottom, the spacer beads change a little bit. Instead of doing 3 in between, we're going to do 2 in between. Now this is my preference, but I'll be honest, you can do it however you like. I just, when I make these, I don't like the bottom part to hang down too low because honestly, it looks a little bit strange proportionally for a rosary. But again, that's a personal preference. So if you'd rather put the 3, go ahead and do so. This is just my recommendation. I've sampled it a lot of different ways, and this is the way that my rosary team thought it looked best. Okay, so again, I did 2 spacer beads, 1 Our Father, 2 spacer beads, 3 Hail Marys. Now again, on this one, I'm not alternating the colors. Oops. So these spacer beads, only do a few at a time because they're really little and they run away and they will end up all over the place if you're not careful. You definitely don't want to knock them over, because I've done that and it's not fun to pick them up. Okay, 1 more Our Father, and 2 more spacers at the very end. We're just about to the end of it here. Oops. Here we go. Okay, so now we have, this is the end part, right? The short cord, when you tie it, don't worry about the short cord. We'll cut and burn that in a bit. So continuing on the long cord, we have 2 spacers, Our Father, 2 spacers, 3 Hail Marys, 2 spacers, Our Father, 2 spacers. And now we are going to add a crucifix. So this is the only knot you really need to worry about. And I'm going to recommend that we do this with 2 turns around. If you're familiar with working with the cord and you can make bigger knots and you're more comfortable with a bigger knot, you can do that, that's no problem. But 2 turns around is gonna be enough to get us through this. So what I would recommend is hold this tight so that all the beads are up tight, and then the string is going to go across your finger. You're going to form like an X, and then you're going to go around 1 more time. Take it off of your finger and hang on to it as such. Make sure these beads, the knot's not running away from you. You're going to feed the string through here. Continue to hold on to it. You're going to put on your crucifix. There's no front or back, so you really don't need to worry about that. And then you're going to take your string and go back into the hole, like almost upward, if you will. So the first one goes down, the second one goes up. And then you can see I'm holding on to the string. This is where you have to just take your time with it and be patient. You want to hold on to the string that's not the one that's just kind of laying inside. See how this one's just kind of loosey-goosey and this one's tight. So you want to grab the tight string and grab this so it doesn't run away from you. Hold on to these beads, make sure they're up here tight, and then this knot, you want to kind of roll it and keep this little last bead out of the way here, just so that it'll tighten. And honestly, if these crisscross at this point, I wouldn't worry too much about it because it's one tiny little knot. You won't even notice that. But you do want that knot close up near the bead, as close as you can get. Okay, and then what you do is just take, and I always keep my finger inside like this because it'll get twisty. You'll see what's happening here. See that, how it twists? Okay, so just continue to pull the string, and you may need to kind of straighten out your crucifix a little. Uh-oh. Okay, so, well, that will happen, and if it does happen, all you need to do is put it back on and give this end a little squeeze. Now, I do have tools to tighten it as well. You can use pliers if you need to tighten the hoop on there. So I'm going to continue pulling this up. And then when you get towards the end, just gently hold on to this. And the reason that you don't want to pull this is because it'll open that back up. I probably should get my tool and tighten that, but you can see what's going on there. So sometimes these loops open up a bit, and like I said, pliers, you could probably use tweezers, and you know, I have a little jewelry tool that I use. But you're going to tighten it all the way up like that, as such. And then we need to cut and burn. So this white cord, when you burn it, it burns very quickly. I would cut it, I would say about maybe a ½ inch, like so, here and here. And then we're going to need to burn it. When you burn this, it will burn very quickly, and it will continue to burn, so you need to go ahead and blow it out. You need to go ahead and blow it out when you burn it. You'll see what I mean in a moment. And when you start to burn it, it'll start to mushroom, like almost like a mushroom cap, and that's good because that'll work almost like a stopper. So make sure to move everything else out of the way, because if you burn it here, the whole bottom piece will fall off and your rosary's a goner. So I'm gonna go ahead and start burning it. And as you see, it continues to burn unless you blow it out. And so this is what the end looks like. And then I'm going to take the other side, once again being very careful not to let it pull out on its own. We'll go ahead and burn that, moving everything out of the way. And here we go. This is your finished rosary. And so again, this is the large and small bead mission rosaries, and this will fit over someone's head. Hope you enjoy.